Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Gulf Power Company and to the Restore Workshop. We are excited to have you here. I am Jennifer Grove, Community Development Manager for Gulf Power Company, and I'm excited to welcome you here today for an opportunity to raise all of our understanding about something I'm sure we've all read about in the news, seen in the paper, maybe even attended some of the public meetings that have been held already in the community related to Restore. The focus of our meeting today really is to target you as a group of nonprofits to better understand exactly what has happened to this point, what's going on now, and what the opportunities for you to engage in the future will be. I think today we will dispel some myths, clear up some misunderstandings, and hopefully all as a community of folks who really are in it every day to work for the betterment of this community, bring us all closer to the same page about what this opportunity really is for us for transformation of this community going forward. It is all of our goal and the county's that we provide this information to you because at sometimes this the Restore train moves very quickly, other times it moves slowly, and I know that it's challenging for some organizations based on capacity and size of the organization to stay in tune all the time with what's going on. So what we hope to provide you today is that synopsis of what has happened that has led us to this point today, where we are now as a county with the Restore process, and where we're going in the future. I want to give a special thanks to Miss Robin Punko in the back as we go in the beautiful turquoise dress. As we go throughout the morning, if you need anything, Robin is your go-to gal. We will, and I'll be right up here as well. But if there's anything we can do to make your stay better or get you more information or something that you might need, please let us know. I'd also like to give a shout out to Gabe in the AV booth. Thank you, Gabe, for being here to make sure all our presentations work. I'm now going to read some fine print for you. This is a message that I hope will give you kind of a solid foundation as to understand kind of the nature of what you're going to hear about today, to kind of tee up the presenters that we have that will follow me on the agenda. The Restore project implementation and procurement will need to comply with the federal and county procurement requirements. You're going to learn a lot more detail about what that means as this morning goes on. Please do not, as an organization, here is my main message to you, please don't think this is just another grant opportunity. I know many of your organizations are really funded through and new programs are implemented through grant opportunities, and there is a certain process that typically goes along with that. Here is my message. This is not that. And so what we are going to spend the morning on is learning, so what is it? What do we know today, and what still yet needs to be clarified and determined as we move forward so that everybody can provide their experiences in working with this committee into the stage that we're in right now, which is idea generation. So the next fine line print is, even if your idea or project is selected, don't expect that that means that your organization will directly receive the funding to implement that idea. You're going to learn more about why I'm saying that throughout the course of the morning. Unless modified in the future, all projects, all Restore projects, will have to be bid through the county purchasing division process. So this workshop is intended for you to learn how you can stay involved, promote your ideas on how to better the community, and then better understand what all of that I just discussed actually means as it relates to this Restore process for Escambia County. You may be aware, some of you may serve multiple counties. Please understand that this process and the timelines are identified on a county basis at this point. So if you've been engaged in work in Santa Rosa County, what you'll hear today will be different because everything you'll learn about today is entirely focused on the Escambia County Restore process. Where I'm looking for my Keith. Are we good with that? Good? Anything to add? Okay. Great. You're welcome. So with that, we are going to get into the agenda, and I would like to introduce what I would call the meat and potatoes of the morning right now, which is the Dewberry Consulting Group. I'd like to first introduce Stella Wilson, environmental scientist, and we also have Mike Hansen, PE, the project manager. Right here. Great. Sitting right here. So with that, Gabe, if we can bring up the Dewberry presentation. Excellent. Thank you. Estelle.
Thank you, Jennifer. I just want to echo what Jennifer said and welcome everybody today. And I Hope that you all get out of this what you came for, and if you don't, we have question and answer sessions. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to spend about 20 or 30 minutes just really giving you a good overview of where Escambia has been and pretty much outline the steps that they chose to take and the steps that have already been taken and where we're at today, and just going about it in a little bit of detail in each one of those steps. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mike Hansen, the project manager, and he'll tell you what steps are left to take, approximate timeline, and what we still have left to do, etc. So if you do have questions when I'm going along, I would just jot them down, and then at the end, in about 30-45 minutes, at the end of this particular speaking session, we'll take some questions and do some question and answers at that time. Okay, let me make sure I can work this thing. So just to give you, we're going to go back, way back to the reason for Restore Act, and this just gives you how Escambia County's money is being funneled down. The Restore Act, which was adopted in July 2010, I believe, several different components. There are three main components, two additional components. The three main components you have there are what we refer to as the pots 1, 2, and 3. So the direct component is what they call pot 1, and then the comprehensive plan component, pot 2, and then spill impact component, pot 3. So in pot 1, that's where that funding is being funneled directly to counties. And some of this might be really overview for you all, but for those that it's not, we'll just skim through this really quick. So from that went to the 5 states, and then down to 75% of that funding to the most affected counties in each state, and then 25% to the other impacted coastal counties of that state. So in Florida, and in Escambia County specifically, that's the one that's highlighted there on the second line, this is what the gross allocation projection is today. That will change definitely when the BP settlement is all worked out. This is only from the Transocean settlement and does not include the fines from the BP settlement, which I think we expect to know within approximately the next year or so. So that right now is what Escambia County is expected to receive as of today. Like I said, that will definitely change, will increase, hopefully. So this is sort of basic too, but what this tells you about is this is the U.S. Treasury Department's list of eligible activities that can be funded under Restore. They do look kind of broad, but they are aiming at specific goals here. So you have actually 11 eligible activities. 7 or 8 of them are actually relevant to what you all would probably be interested in. Some of them are just administrative functions. So just to go through them really quick: restoration and protection of natural resources, ecosystems, fisheries, mitigation of damage to fish, wildlife, and natural resources, infrastructure projects benefiting the economy or ecological resources, coastal flood protection and related infrastructure, promotion of tourism in the Gulf Coast region, including recreational fishing, promotion of consumption of seafood harvested from the Gulf Coast region, workforce development and job creation, and then a couple of others here about state parks and state and federally approved coastal management plans, and of course administrative costs. Okay, so that brings us to where Escambia County is. This slide just sort of shows you what the steps are for the entire process, and it was about a 15-month process that was laid out that really began with the Step 1 needs assessment 2 or 3 years ago when the Restore Advisory Committee of Escambia County was first formed. And during that time, before the Treasury rules were finalized last year, they heard presentations from a lot of members of the community, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of citizens that came to those meetings, and they developed a needs assessment. That needs assessment, we'll go right into that, was, like I said again, started about March 2013 and then ended up being adopted by that committee in January of this year, 2015. They held 32 public meetings on the needs assessment. There were about 9 press releases, and there was also a public survey. So they really attempted to get and gather all the public feedback they could that went into this particular document. And what this document does, the needs assessment, it's supposed to really take a pulse of what the community issues are and needs are, not just as it's related to Restore necessarily, but Escambia County's issues, Escambia County's needs. So if you're interested, I don't know if that document printed in your packet, but it is located at that link there at the MyEscambia/Restore. And if you have any questions too, I believe our contact information was distributed, so if you can't find it, just feel free to call or email. And I'll go through it just a little bit to give you an idea of what they decided upon. There were some broad categories, 4 broad categories: environment, economy, infrastructure, and social issues. So those were broken up, and then they were ultimately sent on to the county commission. Just to give you an idea, I'll leave this up for a couple of minutes. Water quality, monitor and restore habitats, air quality, conserve and preserve ecological sensitive areas, expand environmental education, remediate contaminated sites, natural systems resiliency, improve drinking water quality. Those are some of the things that were in the environmental category. In the economy category, expand, diversify target industries, develop, create jobs, redevelop existing sites, attract and grow small businesses, strengthen tourism, increase tourism marketing, build upon existing assets, and develop a skilled workforce. In the infrastructure category, and I apologize for just reading through these, but maybe it'll spark some questions for y'all too. Transportation, man-made infrastructure resiliency, low-impact development, sustainable design, infrastructure maintenance, definitely stormwater was talked about a lot, and improved coastal facilities. And then the last category is social. This category isn't necessarily eligible for restore funding, but it was what this process was meant to do was definitely engage the community issues and community needs. So that was included as sort of what we'll get to later, a bonus category or an extra category beyond those three main categories that restore funds. So in the social category, a lot of variety of issues here: improve community health, target traditionally underserved areas and populations, that was discussed quite a bit, reduce crime, improve public safety, support environmental justice, improve education systems, address poverty, conduct health studies, reduce litter and nuisance species, affordable housing, family support services, preserve cultural heritage, and support ex-offender reentry programs. So those were some of the big highlighted issues that came out of that needs assessment process. So moving on to the next step then, that step started, pretty much right after January when that first step was adopted. So developing the project selection criteria was in large part based on the needs assessment that was done. So what we're trying to do here is figure out what are the most important issues to the county. So the needs assessment helped to identify all of the critical issues. So now we have to figure out what are the most important and which issues should have more weight compared to others, and which will help rank those projects above others. So in this particular phase, just to give you an idea of what process it's gone through since January, the RAC, the Restore Advisory Committee, held 6 public meetings. There were 8 press releases, and there was also a public survey. So again, trying to engage the public as much as possible, attending the meetings, advertising the meetings, and trying to get as much input as possible. The RAC did end up adopting a draft version of the selection criteria on April 6th. That document, again, can be found there on the website. That was then sent over to the Board of County Commissioners on April 16th, and they held a meeting to discuss it. And ultimately, they decided to send that selection criteria back to the Restore Advisory Committee for consideration on a couple of different issues. So they will again meet on May 4th at 4 p.m. to finalize the selection criteria and then send it back on to the county commissioners again for adoption. And again, that document can be found there at myescambia.com/restore. That's really where we're at today. Again, if you have any questions, I think we'll do some question and answers in just a few minutes. Mike Hansen is gonna, these slides were put in here in your printout, so you do have a copy of these selection criteria if you just want to run through those. Again, you can see that a lot of them are based on the needs assessment, job creation, workforce development, community resiliency, and then, like I said, here we are at step 3, and that is what is up and coming. So I'm going to let Mike take over from here so you don't have to hear me talk for 20 more minutes, and he's going to tell you what steps are after this step.